Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are tearing down the ultimate facade of modern leadership. We have been raised in a corporate culture that values armor over authenticity. We have been taught that to be a great leader, you must be bulletproof. You must never show a hint of uncertainty. And you must maintain an absolute, unflinching facade of perfection, regardless of the pressure, the chaos, or the stakes. But look around you. How is that working out? Most organizations today are trapped in a cycle of fear, shielding, and defensive posturing, where real innovation is suffocated by the pressure to look perfect. People are burnt out, defensive, and completely disconnected from the mission of the organization. If you want to lead in a world that is defined by rapid, chaotic change, you have to do the exact opposite of what you were taught. You have to be willing to be seen. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to fail. Today, we are doing a deep dive, immersive storytelling breakdown of a book that provides the absolute gold standard roadmap for this brave new world of leadership. Dare to Lead by the legendary Brené Brown. Brené is the world's leading researcher on vulnerability, courage, and shame. And in this masterpiece, she takes her findings directly into the heart of the business world. She proves that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite for innovation, creativity, and change. This video is designed to strip away your leadership armor, help you build teams that are grounded in authentic connection, and give you the tactical toolkit to lead with bold, courageous heart. Eliminate all outside distractions. Grab your leadership journal and let us start the process of becoming the kind of leader who can truly change. The Game. Part 1. The Courage to be Vulnerable. Let us begin our narrative by dismantling the most pervasive myth in the professional world, the idea that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. If you think that your job as a leader is to project an image of perfect competence, you are not leading. You are simply managing a defensive perimeter. Brené Brown's research demonstrates that vulnerability, the state of being uncertain, exposed, and emotionally open, is actually the birthplace of everything we value in leadership. When you lead with armor, you might get compliance, but you will never get true commitment. You will get people who follow your instructions because they are afraid, not because they are inspired. If you want your team to innovate, you have to create a space where they are not afraid to be wrong. Innovation requires the risk of failure, and you cannot have risk without vulnerability. 2. Lead with courage. You must be the first person in the room to take the risk. You must be the one to say, "I do not know the answer to this, but I want to work with you to figure it out." When a leader admits uncertainty, it is not a signal of incompetence. It is a signal of massive, unshakable confidence. It shows that you are secure enough in your own value, that you do not need to hide behind a facade. This creates a tidal wave of psychological safety, allowing your team to drop their own armor and focus their full energy on solving the mission-critical problems that actually matter. Part 2. The 4 Pillars of Daring Leadership. Now that we have dismantled the myth of armor, let us look at the 4 core, non-negotiable skill sets of daring leadership. These are not personality traits that you are born with. They are concrete, tactical habits that you must practice until they become your natural default setting. The first pillar is rumbling with vulnerability. A rumble is a serious, honest, and courageous conversation that you have when things are difficult. It is the ability to sit down with your team and look at the hard truth. Talk about the things that people are afraid to mention, and stay in the conversation, even when it feels uncomfortable. Leaders who do not know how to rumble with vulnerability will inevitably resort to gossiping, back-channeling, and aggressive, passive to aggressive behavior to handle their discomfort, all of which are absolute poison to organizational culture. The second pillar is living into your values. Most organizations have a list of values hanging on the wall, but they are meaningless until you make them actionable. You must define exactly what your values look like in practice. If one of your values is innovation, you must define exactly what behavior demonstrates innovation. And equally important, you must define the behaviors that are in direct conflict with that value. When you make your values a daily, measurable practice rather than a static list, you provide your team with a clear, reliable compass, even when the business environment becomes highly chaotic. The third pillar is braving trust. Brené introduces the acronym BRAVING to explain the anatomy of trust: boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. Trust is not a grand, mysterious feeling. It is a collection of small, daily actions. If you want to build trust, you must hold boundaries. You must be reliable in your commitments. You must take accountability for your mistakes. You must keep sensitive information in the vault. You must lead with integrity. You must create a culture without judgment. And you must extend generosity to others. The fourth pillar is learning to rise. This is your ability to handle failure. You are going to fall. Your team is going to fall. Your projects are going to fail. The mark of an elite leader is not that they never fail. It is that they know how to get back up, analyze what went wrong, and integrate the lesson into the next iteration with total, unhesitating resolve. Part 3. The Anatomy of a High-Trust Culture. Now, let us step back and look at the cultural architecture. If your goal is to build an organization that can dominate, innovate, and thrive, you have to build a culture of high trust. A low-trust culture is the most expensive, inefficient way to operate a business. In a low-trust environment, people spend 80% of their time defending their reputation, hiding their failures, and managing the political fallout of their actions, leaving only 20% for the actual work. Brené explains. That trust is the only thing that can bridge the gap between where your team is today and where you need them to be tomorrow. High-trust organizations move with massive speed because they do not need to spend time on endless, soul-crushing layers of oversight and control. People are clear on their values. They are clear on their boundaries. And they are empowered to take bold, decisive action because they know that if they fall, they will be supported in the rising, not shamed for the failing. To build this culture, you must actively operationalize the vault. The vault is the concept that what happens in this space stays in this space. If your team does not trust that you will keep their personal information, their vulnerabilities, and their developmental feedback private, they will never, ever be honest with you. They will hold back the exact high-value information you need to lead effectively. When you prove over and over again that you are a safe place for people to be real, you create a magnetism that draws the best talent toward you, turning your organization into a destination for the most courageous, innovative, and driven people in the industry. Part 4. How to handle the hardest leadership challenges. We now transition to the tactical application. How do you handle the high-stakes, soul-crushing challenges that every leader inevitably faces? Brené argues that we often handle difficult conversations with defensiveness, avoiding the truth to spare someone's feelings. This is a massive mistake. As the saying goes, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. If you are not being clear about your expectations, your feedback, or your boundaries, you are setting your people up for failure. When you sit down to give tough feedback, do not lead with your ego. Lead with your values. Use the language of curiosity rather than the language of judgment. Instead of saying, "You are not good at this," try saying, "I have noticed a gap between the output I need and the current performance, and I want to help you close that gap. What is getting in your way?" This shifts the conversation from a moral critique of their identity to a collaborative, strategic problem-solving session. When you frame feedback as an investment in their growth rather than an attack on their character, you change the entire emotional landscape. People are willing to hear almost anything if they know that you are committed to their success and that you see their potential. The leaders who dare to be clear, who dare to hold the line, and who dare to lean into the discomfort of the truth are the ones who build the deepest, most resilient loyalty in their people. Part 5. The Power of Rising Strong. Finally, let us look at the ultimate leadership skill, the ability to rise strong after you have fallen. Brené shares that her research shows that the most successful, resilient people in the world are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who are the most highly skilled at the reckoning, the rumble, and the revolution. The reckoning is the moment you realize you have been knocked down. You feel it in your body, the shame, the anger, the confusion. The rumble is where you sit down and dismantle the story you are telling yourself about why you failed. We are storytelling creatures. When we fail, we immediately craft a defensive, blame-shifting story to protect our ego. I failed because they didn't support me. Or, I failed because I am just not good enough. You must rumble with those stories. Challenge their accuracy and uncover the cold, hard, unvarnished truth. The revolution is the moment you rewrite the story and change the way. You move forward. You take the lessons, you integrate the truth, and you step back into the arena with even more resolve, more skill, and more wisdom. This process is the absolute lifeblood of leadership. The leaders who teach their teams how to rise strong, who treat failure not as a death sentence, but as the most effective training module on the planet, are the ones who lead the most successful, most agile, and most dominant organizations on Earth. What is the #1 daring leadership habit? Whether it is committing to holding a rumble session to address the hard truths your team is afraid to say, defining the exact behaviors that align with your core values so you can start living them every single day, or taking the risk to admit your uncertainty in your next meeting to build psychological safety that you are going to commit to practicing in your life today. Let me know your courage and leadership goals in the comments down below. If this deep dive storytelling summary completely stripped away your leadership armor and handed you an elite, high-status architectural playbook for courageous influence, show some incredible love by clicking that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another profound psychological, behavioral science, or high-status leadership book breakdown, and share this video with a colleague who needs to. Stop playing it safe and start leading with courage today. Ditch the armor, master the rumble, lead with heart, and I will see you in the next video.